If it's one thing that I've learned from crypto, narratives move markets. And the projects that win big usually don't have the biggest tech neither. It's usually the biggest story. Let's be perfectly honest here. So in this video, I'm going to focus on 5 narratives that I'm watching in 2025. Relatively straightforward, really. These are the narratives. These could pop. Now, the first one is real world assets. Basically, one of the most obvious ones of 2025. I do apologize. But basically what this is real things, tangible kind of ishy things on the chain. Government bonds, real estate, private credit. Put them on the chain and basically tokenizing them. So let's get into a real life example of what one of these are. So this is Ondo. Ondo is pretty hyped, but a new era of financial on-chain data, information, all that kind of stuff, realistically. And the reality is here, real world tokenization is going to become a pretty big thing. That is my fundamental belief of where I see crypto in the future. Now, I'm going to say it. We're not at the point of mass adoption of altcoins yet, I don't think. Bitcoin's very much well known of. We know the term cryptocurrency, but we haven't got that situation, that leap where institutions / real companies, enterprises are using on-chain yet. And I think this is where this comes in eventually. Keep an eye on it. Real world assets are huge. Now, this is just one example. None of this is financial advice. I'm just giving you an idea of examples of the narrative. This is one. BlackRock are in bed with them, Morgan Stanley, Coinbase. You get the idea, right? So that's an obvious one. Not too much detail and information here, but this is more of an explanation kind of exercise. And I'm going to give you another example as well. And the other example is, of course, Hedra Hashgraph. Okay, keep an eye on it. Real world assets, tokenization for real estate, the lot. You get the idea, right? And this has really done well recently, and we've probably already kind of maybe missed the initial hype here. Remember, 2024, really, really big push at the end of the year. This was a part of it. It's an ISO coin as well with the regulation side of it, which is going to be an important factor. But as you can see here, there's a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of, situations around the governing council. You could probably argue for some people it's very much, wow, big in your face. Some people would argue it's very centralized. But ultimately, we've got to look at the situation. And as I said before, that leap towards mass adoption of altcoin use and tokenization and blockchain technology, people have to use it outside of the world of our bubble, right? So Hedra Hashgraph is a fantastic example of this again. Now, you're probably wondering, why does this sort of matter? Well, it appeals to bring real yield to actually cryptocurrency as a whole. Traditional investors, as I say, are familiar on-ramp. And if regulations do genuinely play out here, it could be a multi-trillion-dollar revenue narrative, essentially, in terms of where that money could go. It's kind of required in a way. And you think about where money markets are moving and inflation and the depletion of cash and stuff, it's a logical step. So this is going to blow your bollocks a little bit. Hello. DePIN. Decentralized Physical Infrastructure. Basically, right, imagine the likes of Uber, where they're run on a blockchain with a token. That's kind of it in a way. So think of like companies without their own assets, so to speak, right? Real world infrastructure like networks and data storage, but in a decentralized way. So obviously I use Uber as an example because they don't actually own the vehicles, right? Same with Airbnb. You can use that in the same way where you've got a decentralized network, such as one of the examples I want to give you is Render doing GPU computation power. That is a DePIN project. There's loads of them, and we'll go through it. So here's Render Network. The key word in all of this, by the way, is distributed and obviously decentralized, because it's distributed power. It's like the Bitcoin miners, right? So with this, you've obviously got the situation where you can use your GPU to basically supercharge a creative workflow around AI. And we all know around AI and stuff like that, it's very, 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 very heavy in terms of use case. So obviously cloud rendering made it easy, secure, and affordable. It's fast, it's less elastic, and affordable. So when we're looking at GPU and rendering and all that kind of stuff and the utility around that, it's mental, but it's a network and it works because it's simple. And that's the whole process of it. And again, we talk about where this could lead us to going in terms of the future. It's kind of obvious, really, what is happening with the world in terms of technology. It's getting more and more costly to do things. This is something that could hopefully, fingers crossed, in the centralized world, take a bit of that burden away. Another fine example of this would be Filecoin, decentralized storage network, kind of like your Dropbox and stuff, but it's all decentralized. It's on the cloud, so to speak, or in the blockchain. But if you're going to use normal language, that's what you'd say. Open source, cloud storage, marketplace protocol, and incentive layer. It's been around for a while, and it kind of works in a way. And when you go store your data, for example here, use Filecoin to store your data and retrieve data. Dynamic, distributed, cloud storage network for your data, right? It's a different side of the market. And ultimately, it's something very, very familiar with what people are used to. These could take off if there's any sort of situation with security in the centralized world. Now, the thing with this is they aren't just white papers, they're actually physical things that you can actually use right now. And that's a situation what we've got. We've even got in other projects like this where you can pay to get usage of this, like Akasha Network, for example. People can actually use that physically now. So that's pretty good. And with the, with the rise of demand of all this sort of stuff in the data, we need to get rid of those cloud monopolies of like a Dropbox and offer something different, which is going to be more decentralized and probably better over time. But we've got that narrative where, in the obvious situation here, is people don't quite understand it because it's a little bit different with tokens, and that makes sense in a way. But yeah, I think it is very niche, but real world utility in crypto, DePIN narrative could be a massive one in terms of bridging that gap. Before I go on, please do like this video and please do subscribe. Also, I want you to comment what your favorite project is. I want to know. I want to do more altcoin videos, certainly more educational, timeless pieces like this. So please let me know. One narrative that people, I think, forget is the Bitcoin ecosystem. I know, I've said it. Let's talk about it. The digital gold, so to speak, but it's changing fast. We are seeing layer 2s, likes of stacks. We're seeing the rise of runes. We're seeing ordinals. And the capital rotation into Bitcoin could be massive because the biggest whales live there, and that's where the money is. Realistically, though, I know many people have not done this, but please do. If you are bored one day, I urge you to do one thing and one thing only. Download a Lightning Network wallet, put some Bitcoin in it, and send it to a Lightning Network. Let's just send it through it. Send that bit of Bitcoin to another wallet on the Lightning Network. You will go, oh, wow. That's one side of it, which is very, very important. Now, the most obvious example is stacks. It's not performing very well in price, but it is a layer 2. It's a leading layer 2 of Bitcoin as well. And it has its own token. It has SBTC as well. And developers are probably going to start migrating to this and using it and using the utility of this because it's fast, efficient, and it's friendly. We all know the pain points of Bitcoin in terms of its infrastructure and how it's built with the block sizes and all that kind of stuff. But it's not that bad. I know a lot of altcoin people are like, oh, but it's really slow, sluggish. Why would you want to use that? But like I say, use a Lightning Network. Like I say, layer 2s. It's not going to be all on chain. It's not all going to block the chain. There's certain situations that come in that is hopefully going to unclog that situation and remove that kind of skill gap. You've also got the meme coin market, so to speak, of Bitcoin, which is Bitcoin runes. These are relatively new. They're about a year old now. And overall, this is probably the quickest and most efficient way to grow or lose your Bitcoin, so to speak. But realistically, though, the amount of money that is on the Bitcoin chain is huge. And these go through very, very cyclical runs. But the community side of it is huge. And then you've got to also talk about the likes of ordinals, so to speak, right? There's a lot of money in ordinals. There's a lot of people interested in ordinals as well, collectors, especially in the Bitcoin side of it. And we've had booms in this market too. That's the sort of thing that people are interested in. But you've got to look at other narratives around the Bitcoin ecosystem alone, not just this. Now, the one thing that is important here, the ETFs. Institutional eyes are on Bitcoin alone. And that's a growing narrative alone. But what the biggest problem we have here is, since that's happened, altcoins have not done very well, have they? Let's be honest here. Let's be perfectly honest. So when you think about the alternatives on the Bitcoin ecosystem, are people just going to look at growing their sats? Are people going to be motivated by getting more Bitcoin? Well, the easiest way to do that is to buy an ordinal, sell it higher, or buy a rune, sell it higher, or utilize the Bitcoin ecosystem in terms of an altcoin to develop the ecosystem and to make it better. So yeah, what would you rather do? What would you rather explore right now? An undervalued ecosystem that no one knows about, which is probably Bitcoin ecosystem, because that's the first time you're ever going to get like a token on it, or the Ethereum ecosystem, which you know and you probably understand more, and you may think actually some of the money's not gone there. You got to remember as well, with a lot of the Bitcoin ecosystem, especially in runes, there's no VCs, there's no bullshit bollocks around key opinion leaders or anything like that. That's the perfect thing about it. They're minted from inception. So it's different. It's old school. That's why I like it. And I think it's a really interesting ecosystem to keep an eye on. Now, the next one, I've already alluded to it a little bit before. No surprise, but AI. The cryptocurrency narrative around AI and around the world is growing and it's getting bigger. Not just AI tokens riding the hype, but we're seeing like the use of it in data processing, prediction markets, decentralized computation, not to mention the betting markets as well. It's absolutely crazy. So I'll give you a couple of examples just to kind of tickle your feathers a little bit. The one that sticks out for me is obviously Near Protocol. I actually was a holder of this. I've made some good profits on this, but ultimately for AI, this is probably the most obvious, the big one. Now, overall, you could probably argue a lot of things with Near Protocol. It's growing. You got the AI, you got the chain abstraction, you got the blockchain. Is obviously it's intense, and the projects around it is getting bigger and bigger. And their social media is actually quite funny sometimes. Some of the stuff that they do is pretty fun, but AI in terms of scalable AI native, and cross chain is pretty big and a one to keep an eye on. But it's not just that, they also have all the Web3 sort of covered off as well. As you can see on the screen here, there's a lot of stuff to kind of get your head around, such as the data side of it, the infrastructure model and the application of it, all around their AI website and their entire ecosystem currently right now, which is starting to grow. So there's a lot of things happening here and it's a one to keep an eye on. Another obvious one, I do apologize, it's obvious, but ICP. It runs AI models as real smart contracts. That's one part of it. And they have a lot of AI build on their blockchain. They do quite a lot. It's quite, I think, under the radar, and I think it's quite a good, solid project. It's just not very good with price currently. But ultimately, you can see there's a lot of AI facial recognition fully on chain. There's stuff happening here. So again, when we look at AI agents and stuff like that, ICP could be a very, very interesting one in a real big market surge. Now, I mentioned it before, AI models are getting powerful and they need more data, and the whole situation around the use of obviously ChatGPT and stuff like that, crypto can provide a bit more power with with obviously decentralization power, the blockchain, etc. And it's also another avenue. But let's be honest here, I'm still a little bit skeptical around the AI narrative alone. I don't know if it's fully boomed off yet or if we're just starting to get really, really interesting. But we know a lot of people use AI, but it's that scalability. Can we go from the next level of scalability, utilizing decentralization and making it even more efficient and better? Now, the last one will probably surprise you, but we're going to say it. The Dino Coins. I've said it. The old battle-tested altcoins that people love and hate and will pump every single cycle. I know we're going to go with it because I get so much shit when I talk about them. But ultimately, what popped in the last little run? Nearly all the Dino Coins. Literally every single one. And we've got to talk about them because they're obvious. So the likes of XRP, keep an eye on it. Why? It's battle-tested. It's been through the runner. It's been horrendous. And then obviously it's had lawsuits dropped as well. But why? You're probably wondering, well, it's an obvious one. It's fast, it's efficient, it works. And let's be honest, I think people just don't like it. And I think that's also a recipe for a hated rally. But let's look at a few more examples. What about Cardano? Again, sign of a hated rally. It's dead. Ugh, don't like it. Rubbish. Ugh. Seems to be the obvious case for a lot of people on social media. Probably the comment section now will probably go, oh, why did you pick this? Battle tested. Been around since 2017. Absolute worldy of a coin to make money in a bull market. It's proven. All right, I know. But Litecoin? Why not? It works every single time. Really does. All right, I'm taking the piss now. Grant, go on. Just go for it. Look, all of these assets did very, very well in that ISO kind of little boom where we got a bit of regulatory kind of situations. It's proven. And let me explain why. So I know I'm going to be reaching a little bit here, but when retail floods back, whatever that is, they will go to what they know. They will go to the liquidity and the recognition, and the price action will move like most things do. Because Dino coins do move, and that's the thing. They don't just die. They do come back. And that's what's interesting. And I've made most of my money on the older coins. And I know people disagree with me, and let me know if you're one of them in the comments. Most people like new coins, but for me, I don't like new coins anymore just because of the emissions. The emissions kill them. So the hype around those, not very good. It looks great on launch, but as soon as they start diluting those tokens, it's ugly. So yeah, for me, it's not really worth it. check out the Dino Coins, have a one or two at least in your portfolio. Or you can probably class Bitcoin as one of them as well. So there we go. We're done. 5 simple narratives that you need to keep an eye out for 2025. Certainly the ones that I'm keeping an eye on. This isn't about chasing the hype. It's about understanding the capital flow, the narrative, and being able to capitalize on that. So keep an eye on it. Let me know in the comments, though, what your favorite one was. Or if I've missed one, I might have missed one. I might have missed an obvious one or a coin. By the way, the coins are not recommendations. They're just showcasing what they are. And yeah, if you found it helpful, leave a like and a subscribe and all that kind of good stuff. And watch this video and recommend it. It will probably help you understand some of my negative bias around altcoins sometimes.